Hey, everybody. Thank you for coming to another great interview from our 2023 Business Connection Summit. I am Bill Marshall, and I am joined by Lisa, and we are talking about leadership, which is a huge and very important topic in any kind of business from many different angles, too, whether you're hiring someone or you are a leader or you're trying to manage leaders. So I'm going to hand it over to Lisa. She's going to tell us who she is and what she talks about, and then kind of give us a little bit of an introduction into what we're going to talk about.
Fantastic. Thanks, Bill. And lovely to meet you all out there. Thanks for listening. Leadership, gosh, as Bill just said, huge, huge, huge topic, but so crucially important for today's changing workforce. So I'm Lisa Askwith. I'm actually, as you can probably pick from the accent, originally from Australia, currently live in Singapore and work globally. So I work across a lot of industries these days, everything from a little tiny startup through to a global behemoth. Very much work in the senior management team, the C-suite team. Currently, I'm a CPO for Love Benito, which is a well-known Singapore fashion brand that's launching globally. But I also take on other roles, have run things like the airport in Singapore from the HR training and development perspective. So that leadership piece for something like an airport, particularly Changi, which is I think now for 8 years, the best airport in the world, takes a massive leadership piece to make it run well and run safely. So for me, working in the leadership areas has always been crucial. People are the biggest part of your business. If you can't work well with them, if you can't find a way to have leaders that can actually lead, not just manage or tell your people, things go horribly wrong. Okay. So it's really developing that piece. It's leadership. What does it really mean? And our people have changed a lot over the last 10 years. I know you would have heard that, COVID's changed so much, hybrid work's made everything different, people have different expectations. But what the bigger companies realize is that that's been coming for 5 to 10 years.
Mhm.
Hybrid work for us who have been working globally we were not surprised. I was just as busy, if not more busy, during COVID being locked up in my apartment in Singapore than I was when I was allowed loose on planes. So, that whole change in our dynamic at work, our needs at work, that purpose-driven belief in what that means to our people links in really tightly to our leadership skills. And if we can't adapt to that right now, we're going to have a lot of trouble in the workplace. So I think we're going to really talk around that today, aren't we, Bill, and how we can try and give some tips and some tricks and some ideas about how you can be the best leader you can possibly be, or how you can work with the leaders around you to achieve more and also help your people become fantastic leaders, not just followers.
Absolutely. And that is a lot of information, so we will definitely get right into it. I think that the first thing I want to do, though, is put out a good, for lack of a better word, definition of what leadership truly is. Because there's so many different philosophies on it, so many different ways that people think to do it. What is a good way for people to wrap their head around this is what leadership is?
For me, and the way I look at it, because I'm very people centric, leadership is about inspiring those people around you to trust and respect you and allow you as a leader to help guide them to their success.
Awesome. And I like how it's like nice and concise too. And I agree with you. I think that a leader needs to be, well aware of the people that are around them and, how they interact with them. And I think that the more that they do that, the better they can lead that team because they're more in tune with it, as opposed to just someone who comes in and checks in once in a while. So as a leader, let's kind of start from not really the beginning, but like start where it's like, so we have an idea of what leadership is, but what are, let's kind of give a scope of where like the styles of leadership. Like, so I'm trying to phrase the question, but ultimately, like you have your team leader, you have a vice president, you have a C-suite, like there's definitely a lot of different forms of leadership when it comes to companies. So what are some forms that we see? What are some examples of being in leadership? Just to kind of fully bring that picture of what leadership looks like.
Look, I think for me, I like to keep it super simple. I think, we're all that busy these days at work that we don't have time for 101 definitions. We're not going to use them. We're going to forget about them. We're going to do something else anyway. But for me, I go back to and it might seem a little bit old school, the leadership versus management piece. You know, it's whilst you might need to be a good manager to also be a great leader, the leadership piece, no matter who you're managing in your business, you need to be a leader. You need to be able to engage them and work with them, not just tell them what to do. If you keep defaulting to being a manager, doesn't matter what level you're at, whether you're middle management, whether you're a frontline retail worker who has a team on the floor, or whether you're the CEO. If you can't work with people to the point that you can help them achieve their success and help guide them and allow them to be innovative and get things done within the space and scope that they can, then you're not a leader. You know, so
Absolutely.
I'm yes or no, right? Manager,
No,
leader. That's where I sit.
no, I'm with you. And I think that a common thing that I experience in the coaching world too is coaching and consulting. And they're two different things. And there's a time and a place for both. You know, consulting, you're more of telling someone what to do, whereas coaching, you're helping them realize it themselves. And it's definitely a misconception that's a lot in the coaching world too, where people are like, I'm coaching you. Like, well, you're telling me exactly what to do. So you're more of consulting me. Whereas if you're coaching me, you're trying to find the best in me and make me do it myself. So I'm right there with you. I understand the difference. So um, let's talk qualities. Like, what are some qualities that if I'm looking for someone to be a leader and I want to try to hire them, or if I'm looking to be a better leader myself, what are some qualities that we need to start bringing to the table or look for?
I've got two favorite ones, and one you've just mentioned, which is coaching. If people come to me and say, how can I be a better leader? The first thing I ask is, have you ever done a coaching course? And it's not because I expect them to be a coach for 95% of their workday. It's simply because the questioning style you learn in being a great coach allows you to uncover things for your people and help lead them to that end objective in a really positive way. So I think from my point of view, I look for coaching. Can they coach? Can they demonstrate that questioning style? And then the other part I really look for is authenticity. Can they bring their authentic self to work? Because if they can't, their people won't trust them. And if we don't have trust, people turn over like that these days.
Absolutely. And I think a huge part that also touches into the kind of different environment that we're in after COVID, where employees are not necessarily looking for the dollar sign. They're looking for what else am I experiencing in this position, and having the right leaders in place so that when those employees come in and they feel environment, just like you're saying with the coaching and then bringing the authentic self, that's what's keeping employees around. So I think it just doubly makes that important.
Absolutely. And we know now that our employees are moving really through a purpose-driven phase. They have to align their personal values and their purpose with the company and the values. And if they can't find that alignment, whatever it looks like for them personally, they leave. Yeah, so
Absolutely.
we really have to focus on that. And I think authenticity and coaching skills allows leaders to develop that purpose with their people and help get them engaged with the business as well as their own personal success. And that then links up and drives everyone forward.
Absolutely. So we have an idea of what leadership is. We have an idea of some qualities that we should look for either in a leader or as a leader be projecting. And we know how the environment's starting to change where this is really important. So the next thing for me is more of like, okay, I'm either a leader, and we'll take it from two perspectives. I'm either a leader in a company. What are the things I should be doing to implement the stuff that we've been talking about to really be an effective leader? Or if I'm a company looking for that leader to come in, I now have the qualities, but what kind of background should they have? What, like, how much does experience come in? Like, from a business owner trying to find a leader, what are some of the things I should make sure that are in, like, maybe the job description or the expectations of what I'm holding that leader accountable to?
For me, one of the first steps is self-leadership. You know, if you've become a leader and maybe you're only a very new leader and you're just learning, or whether you've been there a while, if you can't lead yourself, if you can't find that peace inside yourself to be able to get through crisis and work with others, you're going to constantly fail. So the first piece is that self-leadership. You know, have you mastered your stress? Because let's face it, if you're in a leadership role, you're going to be under stress. Things are going to go wrong. Things are going to change. People are not going to like you. The business will change. Something will happen. So how have you managed to work on your own personal leadership there to manage stress and the environment and not reflect it onto your people? Because the moment you reflect it onto your people, you lose trust, they lose their purpose, and they start fragmenting away. So it's that first piece. If you can't manage that stress level, and it's different for everyone. It might be a walk at lunchtime. It might be gym at night. It might be having 5 coffees a day. Everyone's different as to what makes it for them.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can't find that piece, that habit to help get you through those difficult days, then you're not going to excel. So that's the first piece. I think the self-leadership. And then once you've got that under control, you can start to manage your emotions in the workplace. You can help others, and then you can start to thrive. So for me, that's that first starting point that adds on to developing a leader.
Perfect. And I think that it's very difficult to do that. I think that's why everyone isn't fit to be necessarily a leader. And I think that understanding that self, like you said, is really going to be in tune with people. So as a leader, being able to do that, that's awesome. So the second part of the question, where it's kind of, I'm an entrepreneur, I know that I don't have that quality. So I'm trying to find the right person to lead my company or to lead a certain division of my company. And, we have our qualities down. We want them to be able to coach. We want them to be able to be authentic. And we now know that we want to make sure that they can be self-lead. They can lead by themselves and be able to manage their stress and all the different pieces. Is there anything else that we should be looking for with that leader or setting up for them to be able to be successful in our company?
I think once you've got that initial fit right, the job scopes now are so big that
Mm-hmm.
you've got to be careful. There might be 100 different criteria, and you sit there and you go, really? You're looking for someone who is compatible from those key things. It's do you feel gut feel is important here as well? Do you feel you can work with this person? I think it's an important question that many, particularly business owners who are employing for the first time, forget to really ask themselves. Sense check. Is this someone you can work with? Can you get through hard times with this person, or are your personalities too different? Where you're going to rub each other the wrong way?
Mm-hmm.
Can you ask them a hard question and get an answer in a way that makes everyone feel comfortable? So it's that sense check and that gut feel is actually really important, and it's hard to check on paper. This is more an interview situation where you start to ask those tougher questions. You look for responses around how they developed purpose with their people, or how they managed crisis in their previous roles, or how
Mm-hmm.
they would foresee managing crisis this time around, and see what kind of responses you get if you're comfortable working with that, because that comfort level is really important.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Now, to kind of bring it full circle, to kind of like, we have my brain just farted. What was my question? I'll have them edit this part out. Man, what was it? I was thinking of it, and then you were finishing up your thing, and then it just went out of my head with the leader.
Developing purpose, working with their people.
Yeah, it might be lost in the ether, but like the entrepreneur is the leader sometimes, and then they're
Yeah.
hiring their
I think
leader.
they've also got to, at that point, if the entrepreneur is still in the business, this is another big question. If they're just putting in their first time CEO, are they willing to let go of the reins? Do they
Mm,
know what they're really asking this person to do? And I see this with startups often. They're not really backing out of the business. They're not trusting someone with experience to come in. They're kind of staying in the business, and they can be their own worst impediment at this point in time
yeah.
because they don't know what they don't know. They've had maybe short-term success in a Series A and Series B, but now they need some experience to help them get through Series C and move forward. And
Okay.
it can be really hard for them to let go. So I think from a entrepreneur, business owner point of view, that there's a question they have to ask themselves. Do they really agree with what they're asking this person to come in and do? And will they hand over the reins to allow them to do it?
Okay. I really like the way you explained it. So I'm trying to think, like, do I need to pose the question and have you repeat it, or can I just put that in there somehow?
You should just be able to edit it in, I
Yeah.
think.
So, cool. All right. So that's definitely a piece to put in. And then, yeah, I don't know where that question went. So, what I like to do at the end is kind of like tie it all together, and I think we've been kind of progressing to the point that you just made, and then maybe one other to kind of like bring it full circle. So that was the entrepreneur side. So I'll cue you up to talk about like the management side, like you're moving up, you're finally at like the VP level, um, and you have leaders under you. How do you manage the leaders maybe? Or as you get bigger teams, how do you keep control, like not control, but keep tabs on what's going on, like bigger teams, you know what I mean? Like it's not just like 5 people now where you can kind of intimately know them, but more of like you have a team of like 100 people. How do you continue to lead by example? So I think that's where I'll lead you. So I think that the last question that I have to kind of tie everything together, because we just talked about the entrepreneur side of things at the higher level of leadership, when it comes to being a higher level leader like a VP, or moving on up the chain where you have now bigger and bigger teams to take care of, how do we maintain our level of leadership where we're communicating, we're checking in, and really kind of still having that authentic personal self? How do we keep doing that at such a high level where you have so many people to manage or lead as well?
Absolutely. And it's a huge challenge for many leaders. They have great success in managing their own team. But when they start to move into like a head office style environment and they have multiple teams, plus they're dealing with, and I hate to use the term political, but it tends to happen in most head offices. There's a whole different vibe and way of working when you're, behind the desk in a head office running departments. There's a couple of key challenges for them. So to help people move to that next step, one of the biggest things for me is never stop learning. Like don't think just because you've now got that next step of promotion and you're managing managers that you suddenly know everything, right?
Mhm.
Keep the learning, keep questioning why you're doing things. And look at, I think we're very lucky these days. Look at the tools we have at our disposal. We have so many things we can do to interact with people. It doesn't have to be face to face in the office. You can set up 2 weekly check-ins that are just 20 minutes and they can be more about a positive chat with a little bit of work than just full on work. It depends on the types of people and the company you're working with. So be prepared to be flexible. How do you check in with people? How do you allow them to feel like you're still connected, but you're not putting out their manager? There's all these different questions you've got to ask yourself during that process. But a lot of it is being open. Make sure you have something like an open time in your diary once a week for a couple of hours that people can schedule a talking.
Mhm.
If they just want to reach out and chat outside of general work busyness and meeting KPIs, allow yourself to be accessible. Use all of your different communication platforms. You've got newsletters, you've got videos, you've got all types of things you can do. If you've really stepped up that far and you've got teams under you and you want to keep that visual communication, record short videos. They work really well. Do a 3-minute thing. People will listen for three. You go for too long, they're going to get bored and they're going to
Mhm.
switch you off. But send it out, whatever media you're using, whether it's Slack, whether it's email, whether it's Teams, whether it's WhatsApp groups. Send it out to what they like to use. Make it a positive message. Connect. Say something they want to hear about. And that will keep that interaction going. But it's different for every business and every leader because it still has to be authentic and it has
Mhm.
to be purpose driven. It can't just be ticking a box.
Absolutely. And that's an awesome way to do it. And I think to, speak again to all the different technologies and things that are out there, I think that the environment has changed a lot. And having all the different pieces out there, and of course, multiple choices of each piece too. It's not like you could just do one. Um, it just gives so much options for people to really develop their own way of communicating and keeping that authenticity that we were talking about. So I think one of the other things I want to talk about too is when it comes to an entrepreneur, hiring that bigger position, the CEO or someone who's really going to be managing, what are some key things we need to make sure that we look for and keep in mind in order for it to be successful?
No, no, absolutely. It's an interesting one because I see so many entrepreneurs who've just gotten through their funding and they're super excited. They've got cash in the bank for the first time. They still might be bootstrapping, but they've actually got money, so they're a little bit less scared. And they're super excited to bring in either that CFO or CEO. It tends to be one or the other. Sometimes a country head. But then we've got the question. They think they know what they want this person to do, but do they really? So this is where I often say to them, step back. What do you really want this person to do for you? And how much of that are you currently doing today? because typically they're doing a lot of it, or they're working with an accountant, or they're doing something that controls that piece. And I really ask the entrepreneurs to sit down and self-reflect first, because they find it hard to let go of those things. You know, if they're going to bring someone in experience to help guide them to the next step, they have to let them do their job.
Yeah.
So please, first, as an entrepreneur, decide what you can let go of. Commit to letting go of it. You can have a fail-safe in place, but make sure you can give that person that's coming into your business the best chance of success by giving them a job they can do.
Thank you so much, Lisa. We have really talked a lot about the different things that it takes to be a leader and the different things that we need to look for in leaders. So to tie it all together, please, Lisa, tell us how we can reach out to you and talk to you if we need to connect with you, and how we can get a hold of you.
More than happy to. Look, I've got, if they can see on the screen, a very easy last name, Askwith, Askwith. So I'm incredibly easy to find on LinkedIn. Most people contact me through LinkedIn, although sitting behind me, there's Apex BRS, which is my business website. You can absolutely reach out via there as well. Very, very simple. Fill in the contact form. But yeah, as you were saying, technology's changed. So most people will reach out on LinkedIn. It's quite funny how things change. It's not a phone call anymore. It's not an email. It's only LinkedIn. So
Yeah.
more than happy to help that way.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Again, everyone, thank you for watching another great interview for the 2023 Business Connection Summit. I'm Bill Marshall, and we look forward to seeing you all in the networking event tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Talk to you soon. Bye.